Graham's here. Control round of applause from the class behind the glass for the one, the only Norton.
Right, a lovely sound.
Before we go any further,
at this time of the morning, it's lovely. Everyone should have that. When your fridge opens, that should happen.
I do. The elephant in the room, first of all, Graham, I've got to get this out of the way. They would love you to do a show here.
Oh, stop it! No, I was saying, on my way in, you were so nice about my book. I thought, they're going to offer me my job back. It's very nice to be here briefly.
When did you finish? Was it the beginning of this year?
End of February, beginning of March, round then.
Well, sadly missed, but we're happy for you because you've got more time doing what you absolutely adore doing, which is writing books. Is teleshows on the way back?
Teleshow's back at the end of this month. I think the 27th is the first show back.
So can you give us the tempos of your life other than your domesticity? So there's the writing, do you get involved in the wine?
I do, but briefly. We do a kind of blending session every year where we get all the different harvests together and we kind of try them out and put them together and mix them.
Where does that happen?
Different places. This year it happened in New York City, baby.
Shut up.
New York City with a
Stop
view of
it.
Central Park. They hired the hotel room. And it was very nice. It was lovely. Very kind of, normally it happens either in Ireland or it happens in London. But this year they went all out.
Because you were in NYC at the time, I would
Yeah,
imagine.
but I think that was a coincidence. I think it was because they also work with Sarah Jessica Parker.
Nice.
Who is famously in NYC.
Is she into wine as well? Does she have her own wine?
Yeah, she has her own.
Do they have other celebs?
No, it was just basically she has a house in Ireland, and I'm not saying she has a problem, but she got through a lot of my wine, and so she rang them and said, and literally they got a call from Sarah Jessica Parker going, how do you get into this wine business? So they do one with her now.
Oh, I see. So she didn't have a lot of wine at your house.
No,
Right.
she's got a house
in Ireland.
Nice. She went to a shop and bought it. Good on you, Tara.
Good for you. So wine, telly show, books.
Yeah.
Anything else I'm missing?
I do a little bit of drag race.
Yeah, of course you do. Yeah. But that's telly.
That's telly.
Yeah,
That's more telly. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how's the marathon running going? All fine?
Please. Honestly, I think I'm going to have an operation on my shoulder.
Why?
I'm there. I'm at that point. Because I'm in agony.
What's the diagnostics behind that?
I don't know. I haven't been to see it. At night, it's really, really, really sore.
So you've got a sore shoulder and you've now diagnosed that you need an operation on it.
Well, a friend of mine just had an operation for some rotor cuff thing.
Right.
And what he was describing, I was going, yeah, that's me. Okay. I've got that. So I'm pretty sure.
But you from where you live, you have a brilliant vantage point of several of the London runs, the races.
Oh, we do.
Were you there for the big half? Could you see the big half a couple of weekends ago?
I tend to get out of Dodge because they trap us in. You can't get in or out because I live in Wapping and it's kind of the marathon goes past it twice.
Yeah.
So we are locked in for so long. My mother isn't very mobile, but I think even with her little walking thing, she could probably do the marathon by the time our house is unlocked.
You're not locked down though, are you?
Kind of.
You can't get out, but because
you can't get out, but I wouldn't go that locked down.
No, well, I used to live in Wapping when there was a curfew.
Oh, when the press.
The riots.
Yeah, the riots.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I lived in Wapping then, and we really were locked down.
In fairness, that's something. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. There's lockdown and there's lockdown.
All right, it's a Sunday, so long as you. And actually, we can get to the shop. The shop is inside the lockdown, so actually, you're right. We're fine.
Is this shop? Is it a 24/7 shop? Is it a convenience store?
No, it's a shop that was very kind to me while I was here on Virgin.
Oh,
waitress.
Oh, waitress. I see. Oh, so it's more right. Okay, I'm thinking of a little,
No. This is this is all bells and whistles.
All right. So this book, Frankie, it's your 5th novel.
Yeah.
Now, there is another elephant in the room. It's different from the other 4. Speak to that, please, if you don't mind.
Well, I think this one has kind of landed differently, and I suppose. It is that thing of writing 5 books. When 10 years ago, I might have had this idea, but I wouldn't have the confidence to write it. When I started, I wrote like a little crime fiction book because I knew how to do that.
Yeah.
You find a body, halfway through you find another body, at the end the detective's life's in danger, it's all solved.
Yeah.
And that was great for a first book because it gave me a structure. And this one is much more sprawling than that. It's a story of a life. It kind of delves into different worlds. I had to do research, Chris Evans.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, not just Google things. I had to actually kind of read around this book.
It's funny that because we talked about this off the air and we both agree on everything to do with this new book, but it's funny you just used the word sprawling because I think it's less sprawling as a read.
Well, it's succinct, but in that it's not very flabby. But it does go
jumps
to
around.
It goes. So you start in kind of Ireland in the late 40s, and then it goes right through to London in the 60s, New York in the 70s and 80s, and yeah.
Yeah, but it jumps around.
Yeah.
And it jumps around because it's confident on its own 2 feet. And it's like you and your chat show. So somebody who's like beginning to do a chat show might sort of preamble and ask questions that are actually warm-up questions that should never be asked. But your chat show is the equivalent of this book because you jump in with the big questions. You just get on with it on your show, don't you?
It's so fun. I'm doing a tour at the moment. It's supposed to be a book event, but it's not really. I talk about the book a little bit, and then I just talk about the chat show and things. And I thought, I'll show lots of clips from the old days when I was on Channel 5 and Channel 4. I watched them. I mean, I couldn't.
Are they really slow?
Just awful. And like, I ask questions that are, 10 minutes long.
Yeah.
I just go on and on. It's so bad. So the good thing was, I don't know whether I'm any good now, but I'm better than I was. I'm better than I was when I started.
I think you're doing pretty well. Do you still look forward to the chat show as much as you would look forward to, say, sitting at the keyboard to write a book?
I mean, kind of more so because the chat show is very social. I work with a big team.
Yeah.
And also there's a kind of nice thing, like when I sit in the chair on that Thursday afternoon, say in the rehearsal, and it's so familiar. There's something so kind of like, I've been here so many times before.
Yeah.
And now there's kind of I get kind of emotional because there's a real sense of how lucky I am to have been doing this job for so long. And then there's the excitement of soon there'll be a big audience on those seats.
Yeah.
There'll be some famous people on that couch. And as familiar as it is, I don't know any of that. I don't know what the audience will like. I don't know what the guests will be like.
Yeah.
You have an idea in your head, but every show is different. It's like how you can do this show every day.
Yeah.
Because
you have to love it.
And also because it's different every day.
Yeah. But you do have to love it, don't you? Otherwise, you drive yourself mad, let alone the audience.
Yeah, like there's occasionally you watch people kind of, you don't love it anymore, do you? There's this like deadness in the eye.
And then that permeates, like, because you transmit it, don't you, to everybody in the room.
And they think they're getting away with it, and they're not.
They are. You are. You know who you are. You are so not. Should we say some names? You are so not getting away with it. Right. So Frankie, Graham Norton. We all have a story to tell. Is Frankie you?
Look, they're all me. They're all, it all
First of all, who is Frankie? For people who don't know.
So people don't know Frankie. When we meet Frankie, she's an old woman. She's in her 80s. She's living in Wapping, not far from here.
In Wapping.
Not my apartment, but Frankie doesn't go anywhere I haven't been. Let's say that. But anyway, she's living in Wapping. She's fallen. She's hurt her ankle, and she gets a carer, a young guy called Damien. And it turns out he's from the same little bit of West Cork as her. And that connection, that link, is sort of the key to unlocking Frankie, and she starts to tell him the story of her life. And really what Damien does, and he does it brilliantly, is he listens. He's a carer, and he takes it as kind of professional challenge, is that he's going to get this woman to talk, and he does. And so, like I say, you go back to Ireland in the late 40s, and then you follow her right through. And I think what's sweet about it is the young carer, I think, sees her looking back almost as a sad thing that all her glory years are behind her. But as an older woman, she's looking back and she treasures those memories.
Yeah.
She loves that those things did happen to her, the highs and the lows and whatever. And I just think it's kind of interesting to see that story through both those eyes.
Yeah, and there's that phrase that you don't know what you've got till it's gone, but similarly, you don't know what it feels like until you're there. And I have a friend over in LA called Bob, who's 88, and then his young friend, Mel, is 82, and he's a whippersnapper compared to Bob.
Yeah.
And you think, God, this might be, I see him every summer, and I think this might be the last summer that I see him, but I've got other summers and he doesn't. But he doesn't seem to worry about that because he's lived his life and he's left nothing on the pitch, and it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, this, not to be morbid, but, I'm in my 60s now, and, I don't want to drop dead.
Yeah.
But I kind of think, if I did, wow, I've had a great life.
Yes.
I've had an amazing life. I've done, so much more than I ever imagined I would.
Yeah.
I wouldn't feel untimely ripped. I kind of go, oh, there you go. I had a life. Yeah.
And everything is a bonus from now on if you look at it like that. As you talking about your show before, and I didn't want to say, I didn't want to sort of jump in and say, and you don't know how long it's going to last, and that's no slight on you or your performance. No, but that's
or your health.
And no, but you
Turns
know
out
what
that
I mean.
shoulder. Yeah.
But when you are automatically zooming out and appreciating it more for that.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Because you have to be in the winter of it, no matter how long it's going to go on
exactly,
for.
Exactly. I mean, my mother now, she's 92.
Right.
But like that, she's the girl in her group.
Yeah,
her two best friends are now over 100.
Right.
So she's like a child.
And everything's relative anyway.
Oh, it really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
The relationship between Damien and Frankie reminds me of the relationship in Magnolia of Philip Seymour Hoffman as the carer to the billionaire guy in the end of life situation.
Yeah.
And I think because he has a similar situation.
I think people who are good at being a carer,
right?
That is their relationship with them.
Yeah.
And also, I think carers are in this position where they're spending time with old people, they're listening to old people. Most of us don't. Like, most of us see an old person, and that's all we see.
Yeah.
We just got to, but if you start talking to them.
Oh, it's amazing.
You got to, I mean, like a stupid example, but I was in Ireland last week and I was in the hotel and I heard an old man saying to the breakfast waiter, by the time I was 23, I had 3 daughters. And just thought, in that sentence, there's so much. Like that young couple, they must have been so scared. They must have been so happy. They must have been so, all of those things. It's in that little tiny, and that's just one tiny little bit of his life.
Well, again, Bob is my Frankie, and he gets his phone out now because it's his daughter and his son who's no longer with us, but they downloaded loads of stuff to his phone, and there's his life. And he was drafted pre-Vietnam. He was out of the US Army before the Vietnam War had started and had done his time, so wasn't sent there. Things like that. And then he shows us pictures of him in 1955 next to his Barracuda with a surfboard, when surfboards had sort of only just been invented.
Yeah.
And this isn't third person. This is him.
And also, isn't it amazing that, like, I mean, I know this sounds ridiculous, but he's only 88. Like, you think he should be older to have been kind of, out of the army before Vietnam.
I mean, we must be careful here because it's not this sort of perfunctory recollection of her life, because we go back to the time. That's the clever bit. You go back from the third person telling a story from the past to the first person of being in the situation.
Yeah.
And that's when it comes alive again. And then we get these little sort of interstitials between Frankie and her carer to give us a rest till we go to the next sort of window of time.
And also, I think what's nice about those little gaps where you go back to upping into the flat is there are characters in this book that you in another book would be just a baddie. They're the baddie in the story. But when you come back to 2024, the older woman is able to look back and try and figure out why they did the things they did. That they weren't just, they weren't just some evil person. They were this or they were that. And I like being able to do that.
I mean, her first husband. I mean, that is a shocking couple of chapters. I mean, really shocking. And also you don't build up to the shock. It's just flat. Because it's the truth, and that's what happened, and that's it's concise, and it gets on with it. And within 24 words, or maybe 36 words, you are knocked for six, and you go, "Oh my God! Of course, this is how it was."
And then there
Speaking to
yes, there are some more salacious moments in the book, and of course, I had to do the audio book.
Yeah.
Which is just you're reading these things, and then you look up, and behind the glass. Is some man headphones on, and you just feel like you're working in Soho or something.
Yeah, he smiled, and then she smiled, and then it was as if someone had fired a starting pistol. They were on each other. His mouth found
play a record.
Hers, and as one of they cast the blanket aside, she gripped her hands around his back, feeling his muscles beneath the ruffle of his jumper, and it goes on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Not boys and girls, no.
Yeah,
not
boys and girls
you.
of certain ages.
Yeah.
But no, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. I love it. I'm on page 115, and I can't wait to read it.
You should read more fiction, Chris.
Well, I do try. I mean, I have limited
do you know what?
time.
I was saying to Ryan Tuberty, bumped into Ryan outside, and I was saying, the books you love, the psychology books, the self-help books, that's all in novels, but with a story attached.
No, I know.
It's all in there.
I know, Graham. I've got one phrase to riposte that with. I have 4 children. I get up at 4:21 every morning, and I have to read 5 books a week for the show. Maybe it's not a choice, this non-fiction thing.
Book more novelists. Book more novelists.
Book more novelists. Who's on the show this week? Richard Osman. He writes novels, doesn't he? So no,
yeah.
To be honest, I probably read more novels than most people.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Is this set in Ireland?
What?
This new book.
Yours?
No, his new book. I think his new book.
I don't know. I haven't read it yet.
Yeah.
Thursday. We only get it on Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the Thursday.
When's he on? Wednesday.
No, he's on Thursday, so we'll get the book tomorrow.
Okay, marvellous.
This is all very off the air. So she goes to New York in the 60s.
Goes to New York in the 60s.
We all want to be with her then, let me tell you.
And do you know what?
Especially at those parties.
No, what I loved was, because you kind of think New York, they're constantly just tearing it down and building it up, tearing it down, building it up. Actually, when I went back to try and kind of do some of the research for this, a lot of the places that she goes and a lot of the places she lived, they're still there. You know, if you go down to 8th Street, I was able to see where she might have lived. In the West Village, you can sort of see where her restaurant might have been.
Yeah.
It really hasn't changed very much around Washington Square. South Washington Square is very different with the NYU and stuff.
You know New York really well, don't you? I don't. Does it mean that if you go back there to research the book, you can put things on expenses?
I haven't.
Right.
But
you could.
Could I?
I think HMRC don't do this 5% thing now, where it's just the 5% expenses, and then they don't want any receipts. They don't want a head and a tail of anything above or below. I think so.
Oh, cool.
Or maybe I just filled in the right form. No idea.
And now Chris is being audited.
Yeah. Not for the first time. Or the last. Is it true? There's loads of stuff in here that I think you may have researched and you may just know. Is it true that if you behaved a certain way during the potato famine, they did drop an O from your name? Is that true?
Yeah, there were supers.
What is that?
So supers are people who took kind of handouts from the kind of the Protestant, through the English government and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think you had to denounce your Catholicism. I think that's what happened.
Right.
And so if you were, John O'Sullivan, you became John Sullivan.
Right.
And so, that does
would make sense,
and
wouldn't it?
Still goes on now. I went to a Protestant school, and there were kind of Sullivans there, and you thought, oh, they're supers. And isn't it weird that like a kid, all 100, whatever, 200 years later, would still have to carry somehow the shame that his family did that?
It's funny because you're talking about this book with a different energy to your other 4 books. It's so interesting.
I'm flogging the hell out of this book.
No, I didn't mean it
No,
like
I really
that.
am. No, I really am, because once you write a book like that, you kind of think, oh, I hope somebody reads it.
But you can. I mean, we all love Frankie. I can't wait to find out what happens to her and how come she ends up where she does in Wapping. I know because it's Nor, her friend, she was married an entrepreneur or an impresario, and I know all this. But anyway,
you'll get there.
But also who am I to say this? But I'm going to say it anyway. The confidence with which your writing has changed. Listen to this. Frances could still taste his kisses. Her body still pulsed with desire, but it was as if her lover had been a phantom. That's a great line.
Well, thank you very much.
It's a great line. It was as if her lover had been a phantom. Pen drop. Cup of tea, Kit Kat, job done. Seriously, that is a great line, Dre.
Thank you very much. That's very kind of you.
When you at the end of a writing session, as much as you love it, it's still formidable and it's challenging. What is your treat? Is it a saucer of Bickies or?
It would be a glass of wine.
A glass of wine?
Yeah, or it all depends when I finish.
Come
I mean,
on.
if I finish at 10 a.m., no. But yeah, there's probably a clink of ice, or at least the creak of a fridge door.
Good
yeah.
for you. And do you have a regime?
What do you
writing
mean?
ritual?
Oh, not really. No, because it's my hobby, so it's the thing that I fit in around the other stuff. Yeah. So, I'm not one of those writers who kind of, I write for 2 hours before breakfast and then, no, that's not me. Right. I just open the laptop whenever I get a chance.
Wow, good for you.
Pick away at it.
Anything else you'd like to talk about? Unless you want to...
My life. I am on tour, but I think it's more or less sold out. But
it is. We're saying it's like, it's cheaper than one of your comedy tours would be, but probably as funny, if not funnier, and more intimate.
It's certainly, it's got laughs in it. It's not too booky, and a lot of the times you get a book for that money as well.
Are you interviewed?
No, it's just me.
Right, great.
Joe, I used to be interviewed on these things, and they tried to be too literary and talk about, and I thought, the people are here to hear about the chat show.
Oh, so it's really interesting because if you do those live interviews, you don't get one thing nor the other. So some of my favourite podcasts sometimes go on tour and then they have those live episodes.
Yeah.
And they're playing to the audience, but they're not landing the audience because they know they're actually recording it for a podcast. We're not getting what we usually get from on a weekly basis, and it just falls between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
If you turn to your audience without somebody interviewing you on these live book tours, you're talking to them, aren't you? And
No, totally.
They're
Talking to
your
them,
partner.
and I'm telling them stories. I'm telling them kind of backstage gossip. I am showing some old clips from the show and various other bits. And I've only done 2 so far, but I've enjoyed it so far. But the last time I did a show like this, I was in my 30s, so I'm pacing myself.
Wow, wow. That's your double, aren't you? You're 60 odd,
Yes, Chris, yes.
Yeah. Frankie, out this Thursday, 12th of September.
Oh. Sorry, Chris.
Yes.
You say you're pacing yourself, but you're Glasgow on the 12th, Liverpool 13th, Wolverhampton 14th, Ipswich 15th, Southend 16th, Folkestone 17th, Portsmouth 19th, Cheltenham 20th, Crewe 21st, then 22nd Leicester, 23rd Yeovil, 25th. I mean, that's not really pacing. That's punchy.
Well, no, I'm being very quiet during the day, is what I'd say. And also, the scary bit about that is I finish in Poole on a Tuesday night, and then on the Wednesday morning, I'm in the office to prep for the first chat show.
And is that the end of the run?
That's the end, yeah. So, I think the chat show will be like a holiday.
Yeah, and also you'll be up to speed on the chat show because you won't be starting.
Exactly.
Come on,
It'll be lovely.
So do you have an idea of what book number 6 is going to be?
No, I tend to ride the coattails of this book for quite some time.
Could you write Nora next?
I never feel tempted to go back to characters because I feel like I've had my time with them. I'm done. If somebody else wants to do that, fire ahead.
I love the cover as well.
That's not the cover.
Oh, it's not the cover.
No, that's just a little proof. There's the real book.
No, I meant
that's
this
the real
one.
book. Yeah.
I meant this one.
Oh, okay. Same colours.
Yeah, great. Perfect. All right, great.
Thanks for having me on and being so kind about it. That's really
Sure,
nice.
you're always welcome. I mean, it's so far for you to come, I know, but nevertheless, you made the effort. It's great. Right, the class behind the glass. Round of applause for our very own Graham Norton. Beautiful. Books out tomorrow. Thursday, and tickets for the tour somewhere. SoComedy.co.uk. Brilliant.
Virgin Radio.